The savanna stretched endlessly before them, the cool morning air filled with the scent of fresh grass and earth. A small group of hominins, early ancestors of humanity, moved silently through the tall grasses, eyes scanning the horizon. No weapons, only the strength of their bodies, the sharpness of their instincts, and the unity of the group. The hunt was about to begin, but it would not be the kind of hunt anyone had ever heard of. In this ancient world, life and death were two sides of the same coin. It was the kind of world where survival depended on a delicate balance with nature, where predators were as much a threat as they were a resource. The wind shifted as a herd of wild antelopes grazed in the distance. The group of hominins crouched low, their senses heightened, feeling the earth tremble slightly beneath their feet as the herd moved closer. The leader, an older male with broad shoulders and strong arms, motioned for the others to gather. They didn't speak, no words were needed. The leader used subtle hand gestures directing the group into position. The scent of the herd wafted through the air, but there was no sound, except the rhythmic rustle of leaves and the faint thud of feet pressing into the dirt. A single misstep could mean disaster. The tension was palpable. The leader's eyes scanned the horizon, searching for the slightest movement. The young ones, barely out of adolescence, were on the fringes, nervous but eager to prove themselves. They had never participated in a hunt without weapons, no sharpened stone tips or carved bone spears to provide protection. The group had to rely solely on their wits and their ability to work together. The antelopes were fast, their legs built for sprinting, but they were not invincible. A sharp movement broke the silence. One of the younger hominins had stumbled his foot, catching on a rock hidden in the grass. His body jerked forward, barely keeping his balance. The herd turned its head, alert to any sign of danger. The group froze. The older male's expression was hard, his face a mask of concentration. This was a pivotal moment. Every member of the group knew what was at stake. They could either retreat or press on, relying on their ability to blend into the landscape, becoming one with the savanna itself. The herd, still on edge, began to move away. The hominins did not chase. No, that was not their way. Instead, they began to shift positions silently, walking alongside the herd, adjusting their pace. They knew the importance of patience, an essential skill in this world of survival. Their quarry would tire before they did. The question was not whether they could catch it, but how long they could last without making a fatal mistake. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, the group continued their silent pursuit, following the herd at a distance. The older male stayed at the front, his eyes constantly flicking between the herd and his own group, watching for any sign of weakness. The leader's body was lean, honed by years of surviving. In a harsh world, his movements deliberate and precise. But then, as the day wore on, the savanna began to change. A storm long anticipated began to churn on the horizon. The wind picked up, and clouds darkened the sky. A heavy pressure settled over the group. A storm was not just a danger because of the rain or the wind, it was a predator in itself. The group's senses heightened again, aware of the sudden shift in the weather. But they had no choice but to keep moving. The herd of antelopes was drawing closer to a large rocky outcrop, where a small stream provided fresh water. This could be the moment they had been waiting for, but the storm was growing closer. The group would have to act quickly before the storm disrupted everything. Would they risk waiting for the perfect moment? Or would they have to take action in the midst of the storm without the protection of their usual methods of hunting? The answer was simple. The storm could not be avoided, but their hunt still could. The storm struck with fury, as if the earth itself was pushing back against the hominins' attempt to survive. The wind howled through the savanna, whipping up dust and debris, making the air thick and suffocating. The dark clouds above seemed to swallow the light, and a sudden downpour turned the ground to mud. The group halted for a brief moment, the sound of the rain deafening. The antelopes, startled by the storm, scattered their movements, becoming frantic as they sought shelter from the tempest. The older male's face tightened with resolve. The herd had dispersed, but they could still be found. The storm, though violent, offered an opportunity. The rain and the wind had created chaos, but also a cover. The group could move without being seen, blending into the storm, hiding their presence. They knew that they had to act fast. This was their one chance to succeed in an unforgiving world where failure meant death. The younger members of the group, shaking with fear and uncertainty, followed the lead of the older male. The rain lashed at their faces, their bodies drenched and cold, but they pressed on. The leader raised his hand, signaling for everyone to halt. They were close now, too close. The herd, still scattered, was just on the other side of a small hill. The group moved swiftly low to the ground, following the natural contours of the land. The sounds of the storm drowned out their movements. The tension was unbearable. Their prey was within reach, yet they had no weapons, no sharp tools to use. Everything depended on their ability to work together to anticipate each other's movements. The older male led the charge, his instincts guiding the group, the rhythm of his breathing steady, despite the chaos. The young ones followed closely, learning from every step. There was no time for hesitation. There was no time for mistakes. They crested the hill, and for a moment everything seemed to freeze. The herd, exhausted from the storm, had slowed, but they were still wary. The group could see them now, grazing near the water. The leader motioned for the younger hominins to spread out. They were close, so close. One misstep, one false move, and it would all be over. Then the leader made his move. He lunged forward, not with speed, but with purpose. He used his hands, his strength, his body as a weapon, in a way that no tool could replicate. The younger members followed, moving in sync, closing the gap between themselves and the antelopes. The storm raged on, but their focus was absolute. Their survival depended on this moment. This was their test. The hunt reached its climax, not with the roar of victory, but with a quiet, primal intensity. They were close enough now, just within reach. One of the young males, a lithe and agile member of the group, darted forward, using his body to block the escape route of one of the weaker antelopes. The leader followed, closing in from the other side. There was no hesitation, no second thoughts. The young male grabbed the antelope, holding it firmly with both hands, using every ounce of his strength to bring it to the ground. The herd had been separated, and one of the antelopes would not escape. The rain continued to fall as the group stood over their prey. They had survived the storm, the hunt, and each other. Their breaths were heavy, their bodies weary, but the sense of accomplishment was undeniable. They had done it not with weapons, but with their bodies and their minds. It was a victory born from unity, skill, and the will to survive. As the storm began to subside, the group gathered around their kill. The young ones watched in awe as the older members began to break the animal down, using their hands and sharp stones to separate the meat. There was no celebration, no victory dance, just the quiet satisfaction of survival. The storm had passed, and with it the uncertainty. They were alive, and for now, that was enough. The group gathered together, sharing the meal. The bond between them strengthened by the challenges they had faced. In this moment, they were not just hominins, they were a tribe united by their struggle and their survival. As the sun began to set and the rain finally ceased, they looked to the horizon, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges, but also new opportunities. As the storm subsided, the group gathered around their kill, the bond between them stronger than ever. In the quiet aftermath, they shared their hard-earned meal, their survival a testament to their unity and resilience. The day's trials had proven one thing they could endure: adapt and thrive without weapons, relying only on their strength instincts and the power of the group. As the sun set, they stood together, ready for whatever challenges tomorrow would bring, knowing they had already overcome the most difficult of tests.